My talk revolved around not just copying what other countries, such as the US or Finland or Singapore or others are doing, but to actually have a discussion about what India wants for its education system as a primary starting point. Today, I'm going to do a similar start to my conversation. I have you for about an hour, and we're going to be doing some workshopping as well during this session. But I have you for about an hour, and we're going to start discussing what we want from our education systems. And I want to thank Ravi and ScooNews as well, not only for inviting me back again for a second year, and hopefully I must have said something compelling enough last year to have the invitation be included again, but I want to thank them also for bringing so many people together who have a common philosophy about education. Last year, after the event, I went back to ASCD, and we're headquartered in just outside Washington, DC in the US, and I said it was remarkable and compelling about how the conversations I heard over those 2 or 3 days were the same things that I have been saying and the same conversations that I have been having, no matter whether it's in the US or Australia or Singapore or anywhere else. And from hearing Matthew speak this morning and from hearing the panel about creativity, I'm amazed about how we're going to have the same conversations occurring this time. And here's my one caveat. I can sense that people are a little bit concerned about how things are not moving quickly. I am a strong believer, and the research backs me up as well, to say before systems change, you have to change the mindset of the stakeholders in that system. And if you rush in too quickly to change that system without changing mindset, you're not changing what they believe in, you're just changing how they do it. So do not get discouraged that we are coming back and having similar conversations. You should be encouraged that we are having similar conversations. You should be encouraged that there are all these people from across India having similar conversations. I'm encouraged that when I come here, these are the same conversations that we have in Washington, DC, the same conversations that we were having in the Philippines a couple of months ago, the same conversations that I have in Paris with the OECD. This is part of a global conversation shift. Last year, we talked about can't see the forest from the trees. And the problem is that we focus too much in education about the microscopic. We become experts in how we do things from the hour of 9 to 10. We become experts in this standard versus that standard, this testing versus that testing. But too often we become experts in the minutiae, but we never take that step back and try to work out what are we doing. Now, it's not to say that the minutiae isn't important. It is important, but the minutiae is irrelevant if we don't know where we want to get to. Because at least what's happened in the US, and I get the impression that the same thing's been happening here in India, is we have had an education system for the last 15 to 20 years that has been focused around test taking, accountability measures, annual yearly progress. And so all of the functions of the school has gone back into trying to make that system better, but where in fact that system has taken us away from the true purpose of education, or at least I think so. So what are the trees in the educational forest? There are all of these things. It's the curricula, it's the testing, it's the budget. It's professional development activities like this. It's even discussions about rote learning versus guide on the side. All of these things are the minutiae. All of these things are irrelevant unless we know where we want to get to. And I've been in education now for 30 years, and I can count on my hands the number of times I've had a conversation about what's the true purpose of education. We should be having that conversation annually, probably monthly, probably weekly in our schools. Seems like our clicker is having a moment. Because until we know where we want to get to, all of those things are irrelevant. So what we're doing today is we're trying to work out where we want to get to. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Where do you want to get to? Why did you come into the education system? Why are you still in the education system? You have a little workbook on your table. What I'd like you to do is to open it up. On the second page, start to jot down a couple of, ideas about why you began to teach. Spend 2 or 3 minutes. If you have time, share it with your neighbour. Answer that first question. Why did you start to teach? What do you want your students to get out of education? And we'll be doing some discussions with partners or in your table over this next hour. So all I'll ask is when I raise my hand, because time is short, we only have 1 hour, when I raise my hand, if you can also stop your conversation and raise your hand, and hopefully that will get people back on track again.
Anybody who needs an extra booklet? Could you please raise your hand?
So why did you start to teach? What do you want the students to get out of education? And we're doing this just to get your mind thinking about why you came into the process. I think some more over here as well. Anybody want to offer up a quick word? Why did you get into education? Yes? Empower the students to become independent learners. What else? Why did you come into teaching? All of your teachers impressed you. Probably that relationship, that strength. I think we're having issues with the clickers too. So you can press it from there, that'd be good. Or am I too close? All right, we did that to get you thinking about why you went into teaching. But to be honest, and one thing that is key at ASCD, where I work, is that we try and put the focus on the child. The focus is on their learning, what they get out of it. So now I want you to change your thinking slightly, and I want you to start to think about that child. What do they need to get out of education? It may not be any different than what you first wrote down for yourself. It may be exactly the same. What does the child need? And for this, I want you to write some words around that star. The child in the middle, what do you want them to get out of education? For this as well, we've written down, imagine the child at 25. And we say 25 because, well, that's just a number we picked out, but the reason behind it is that that's when all formal education is finished, whether it be school, university, the child is in society. So what do we want them to look like, to act like, to be like at 25? What I want you to do is to write down 5 or 6 words and then turn to your neighbour and share some of those and have a discussion for about 5 minutes. See what things they've written down that strikes you as interesting. What things do you have in common? So what characteristics, what skills, what attributes, what attitudes? When I heard Matthew speak this morning, he was talking about the purpose of education. He was talking about the Doom School and how they're trying to develop the sociability of their students, to see themselves as part of the country they live in, the society they live in. You may have some different ideals. You may have some different goals. You seem to have jumped ahead a little bit there. Two more minutes. Have a chat with your neighbour if you've written a few things down. As with everything here, there's nothing right, there's nothing wrong. What I want you to do is to start to think about your role in education. Okay, who would like to share? Give me a word that you wrote down on this table. Confident. Give me a word. Anybody. Effective change manager. One word. Empowered. Independent thinker. Happy. What a shocking thing to say. We want them to be happy. I'm being sarcastic. Self-aware. Ability to get a path after they fall. Resilience, to get up afterwards. To grit or resilience, determination. Okay, what's up here now, we seem to have a clicker that has its own mind. I ask the same questions over the last 12 months in talks that I give. And we do it on a system called Poll Everywhere, where people can text in their answers. This is what people said from Wisconsin. That's what they want the child to be like at the age of 25. Any of those words the same as the ones that you put down? Independent, resilient, confident, empathy, courageous, organised. This was New Jersey. Independent, compassionate, healthy, happy. Somebody else wants them to be happy as well. Productive, intelligent, strong, hard-working. New York, independent, confident, happy, connected, healthy, motivated, empathy, responsible, strong. And this was in Brussels, in Belgium. Same words. If we were doing it as well here and we had the poll everywhere, it'd be the same words. There could be some Indian phrases in there as well, but that mean the same thing. Nobody writes able to pass English or reading. Nobody says able to pass algebra or mathematics. Nobody even says able to graduate high school. Those are stepping stones. But that's what we have been focusing on for the last 15 to 20 years. We've been focusing on the stepping stones when we're trying to get here. What are we doing in our schools to help our kids become empathetic, curious, resilient, responsible, open, or happy? What are we doing on a day-to-day basis to make them become that person? Because at least in the US over the last couple of years, we've been making our students anxious, unhappy, rote learners who will memorise something for a test, put it down on paper, and then forget it. We are doing the opposite of what we wanted them to achieve. And then we scratch our heads at the end of school or university and think, that's strange, why don't our students look like we want them to be? Maybe what we are doing in our schools is not working. What we do in our classrooms impacts our communities. Our communities also impact our classrooms. But what we teach our children, what we role model, impacts our communities. Our communities impact our societies. Our societies impact India. India impacts the globe. Do not think that you do not have power in this equation, because you do. I was talking to I believe it was Swati. I was talking to Swati yesterday and saying how it's interesting how it's interesting that the education sector is about creating the future. It's about developing people for the future. However, the education system very often drags behind. It almost seems to be the last one to change, when the whole purpose of the education system, all right, is to move our children into the future and our society. It was mentioned this morning as well that we live in a VUCA world. So it's not just the fact that education has been taken away from maybe the reason that we entered it. We are also entering a world which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That's a big, tall order for schools to try and tackle. But it's the equation that we have. In your booklet, there are a series of quotes. And some people have some quotes, other people have other quotes. So you can read through them. But I want to read out the first one, so I think it sort of amplifies what we're talking about. And it's actually from David Orr, but I believe Matthew also quoted this morning. For those being educated will have to do what we, the present generation, have been unable or unwilling to do: stabilise world population, stabilise then reduce the emission of greenhouse gases, protect biological diversity, reverse destruction of forests everywhere. They must begin the great work of repairing as much as possible the damage done to the earth in the last 200 years. And they must do all of this while they reduce worsening social and racial inequities. No generation has ever faced a more daunting task. This is the world that our students are entering into. What I want you to do for the next 5 minutes, and then we're going to get some readouts, is to write down, to read the quotes, and then to make any changes to your star diagram of things that you think children need by the age of 25. Do these quotes change in any way what you are trying to do or what you need to do for children? So the task again is to read through your quotes that you have on your booklet. See if any of the attributes or adjectives you wrote down need changing. Maybe they need re-emphasizing. Maybe you want to add some. And then have a discussion again with your neighbour. See what they write down. The other quote that I like, which is up there, which I think is relevant, again, to our role as teachers, as relationship builders, is the one about human being. As we move around this world and as we act with kindness, perhaps, or with indifference, or with hostility towards the people we meet, we are setting the great spider web a-tremble. The life I touch for good or ill will touch another life, and that in turn another, until who knows where the trembling stops, or in what far place and time my touch will be felt. We still remember the teachers that taught us, or the coaches that coached us, or the adults that were part of our life. As was mentioned earlier, we may not remember the algebraic formula or the historical question that we answered, but we remember that relationship, we remember that connection. Have a talk to your neighbour, have a talk to your table. Has anything changed in those adjectives you put around the child star? Who can offer up a suggestion? Did anything change? Did you re-emphasize something? Did you add something to that star? Any volunteers? Did anything change? When I look at those quotes and read those quotes, I understand that the role we have as educators, whether we be a physical educator, a science teacher, a math teacher, or whatever teacher, those things become less relevant than perhaps the reason why we are doing something and the relationships that we developed. What becomes important is that we are developing human beings. We are developing people that are going to form society. help grow society. James Comer, who is a child psychiatrist over at Yale University, talks about every interaction that you have with a child in a school, you are either building community or you are tearing it down. Every time you have an interaction with them, every time you speak to them, it doesn't mean you have to always be overly positive or cannot criticise, but realise that every time you have an interaction, you are building community or you are breaking it down. All right, now I want you to self-reflect about your school. Pick one of those adjectives around the star, the child star. I want you to list down 3 things that your school is doing to try and foster that. Let's say it's empathy, or let's say it's happiness, or what else was said, resilience. What are you currently doing in your school or in your classroom to help develop that? Then write down 3 things that your school could be doing to help develop that. So what is my school doing? What can my school be doing? And these don't have to be big things. If you are a classroom teacher, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What interactions could or should you be having? If you are a principal, if you are a school leader, so 3 things that your school is doing, 3 things that your school can be doing. Only if you want to. Let me get a microphone. Do you have a handheld? With a handheld microphone. Should be on.
Hi, actually we focus on happy self-driven learners. So in a very small way we have already started that in the school, but not largely in the whole school. The first thing is structured learning, because we believe that every child is a born curious learner. But when we structure the learning, when it is very rigid, it becomes very difficult for the learner, because he might not be interested in what we want him to learn. So we bring about flexibility in learning. We are still in the process and going on with that. The second thing is forcing the children to do book back exercises or problem solving, which is already there in the content that is being taught in the class. So it should rather be, the focus should be on solving real life problems. So the community-based real life global issues that can be given to the children to solve after they are equipped with the concepts and they have the knowledge and the wisdom to apply it in real life situation. And the third thing is, there is a lot of ambiguity on the objectives behind learning. Like we tell the children that you need to learn for yourself, but at the end of the day, we judge them on the basis of mark, and we build a kind of fixed mindset towards learning in the children, and the children are not able to come out of that vicious circle of fixed mindset. So we need to build growth mindset in the children, and we are again working towards that by taking away the marks for judging them. Yes.
Wonderful. A round of applause, please, for our first volunteer. Thank you. So it's looking at growth mindset, it's looking at things you can do in the classroom, it's looking at changing maybe some of the structures or the policies or the processes you have in your school. And I would also reiterate what was said, which is we have not got there yet, but we are doing things. We're not expecting people to move mountains, we are expecting people to make small changes, because with small changes become larger changes, and then eventually systems change. Another volunteer for one or two or three things that you are doing or could be doing.
We in our class, we actually we listen to the children, and before we introduce a topic, we let the children share their views and then guide them to the end result, giving them tools to face whatever they have to in the real life, and giving respect to their ideologies, basically. Not, reprimanding them for saying something wrong, but even whatever they come out with, guiding them to see the constructive outcome of it. And in a classroom atmosphere where free discussion is encouraged, children learn better and they are a happier bunch of kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Round of applause, please. Again, it's harking back to things you may have heard this morning, which is making meaning out of learning, having the students select what they're learning, have more control over it as well. And if the student doesn't understand why something is being taught or why they're learning something, explaining it as well. Another couple of volunteers.
So we do try to get children to learn at 3 levels. The first is what we were talking about, trying to give them a purpose, very self-belief that they can achieve that purpose, and then trying to give them a mindset that whatever challenges they face in the way, they are able to overcome those challenges, and then start focusing on building skills. That's the second level. So first level is purely developing a person who has self-belief, who has a purpose in life, and who believes that he or she can achieve that purpose, and then is constantly on the move to acquire new skills as and when required. Then comes the skills, and then thirdly the knowledge. In all of this, what we're trying also to do is to focus a lot on character building, focus a lot on building great perseverance, self-control, trying to have more of ownership of the entire process of learning and giving it to the child, and encouraging a lot of discussion around it, encouraging a lot of debate around what they want to do, what they don't want to do, and leaving it at that, not judging them in the process. And then let them be and figuring out whether that works for them or not. So that's essentially what we're trying to do.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Round of applause. All right, I'm going to move people on, but you'll get a chance to report out again in a minute on something different. But again, I will just hark back to how many times do you keep hearing the same concept coming up time and time again about student voice, about agency, about meaning, about empowerment, about maybe not teaching the entire curriculum of known facts over the last 200 years, but actually picking and understanding what is going to be relevant to these students at this time. What I'd like you to do now, and this might be a little bit of a leap of faith, but we'll try it anyway, is to try and take one of those elements, one of those things that your school is doing, and try and write it out as an equation. Or if you prefer, write it out as a sentence. So, one of the above, let's say it was empowerment, developing student empowerment. What's the school action that you are doing? What's the individual outcome out of that action? Is there some community gain from developing that? And then is an end result something to do with the greater good? So again, going back to this idea that what takes place in the classroom, those interactions between the teacher and the student and their learning has greater impact than just the relationship between myself and the student I am teaching. Again, 5 minutes, either write this out as an equation, or if you prefer, write it out as a sentence. The reason we are doing this is I want you to start to understand that things that take place in the classroom have greater impact than just in that classroom. So 5 minutes, write that down, and then we'll get a couple of examples to wrap things up. Two more minutes, then we'll hear some examples. This should be a personal exercise, so you're doing it from your personal perspective. But even though it's a personal exercise, hopefully what you're realizing is that even your personal interactions have greater consequence beyond those personal interactions. We are building communities, we are building society. We are making the world either a smaller place or a larger place. We are helping make the world a better place. Most educators go into the profession because they believe in something like that equation. They believe that what they do can help fulfill the potential of a child, and that child goes out into society and improves society. Most educators leave the profession when they find out that that equation doesn't quite work in the bureaucratic systems that we all try and survive. Okay, volunteers?
Good afternoon, this wonderful topic. I am Dr. Sharma from Indore. See, we are studying or doing those things which are already obsolete. What I feel that until unless we educators and students will not make awareness among students about the future's challenges, that what are the futuristic vision, challenges, other things. So I am going from back greater good to school action, because until unless we do not know the challenges going to become after 50 years and now, we are not going to follow the second step. Same way third and first step. So what I am doing in my organization, and I did in various organizations, that we have to prepare a competent youth, means students who are going to take different positions in their profession in the future. So I am summarizing in very minutely that we have to develop a human youth of good health, physically and mentally robust and fit with positive attitude about the problems. Number two, then we are not teaching just to get the job of IIT and this thing. This is not a criteria for education. Second, what are the futuristic needs? So what they should have creativity and they should have the positive attitude to solve all the problems with the concerns of others. Then, what are the challenges existing right now nationally, internationally, whether economic, social, geographical, peace and other. So considering those only, we have to add something in existing curriculum rather going as a just like a blindly following person. And then children should be prepared after getting awareness so they can serve world in a better way rather getting a job just like a trained engineer, doctor or teacher. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Round of applause, please. Thank you. So we're not only looking at this equation going left to right, but we can look at the equation going from right to left as well. You can start to look at what is the greater good that we need to achieve or want to achieve, and then bring that backwards to say, what can I be doing in the school or classroom to be different? Yes.
So good morning, I'm Dinesh Kajendran from Commonwealth Youth Council. So actually, I just like to tell you a case study based on this equation which you have recorded. So we are doing a program, a pilot program in India in Tamil Nadu through the Commonwealth. So we have selected a school, and so we have just introduced a module called VIP, because every student would like to be a VIP in some point of time in their life. But this VIP is talking about volunteer, innovate, participate. So VIP. So volunteer, innovate, participate is a school program. So where we have 650 students, we are piloting with that now. So 650 students undergo a project of minimum of 100 hours for the whole year, which is concentrating on sustainable development goals of United Nations, which should be achieved before 2030. So the next 10 years, the school can take this as a pilot project for the holistic development of the institutions and all the stakeholders of the schools. So the individual outcomes is the students will participate in 100 hours in the community outreach activities and also a self-development program. So the individual outcomes, they are equipping with a holistic development and also with the community knowledge. And community gain is 650 students contributing a minimum of 100 hours based on 17 SDGs, which is around 65,000 hours of measured impact has been created in the community within 1 year, which is a large outreach for the institutions in the nearby 10-kilometer community in the school. So, and the greater outcome is 65,000 hours of measured impact on climate change, health and well-being, on quality education, women empowerment, industry infrastructure innovation. There's a lot of innovative projects where the schools also will be certified for the same. So this is the best example we have been doing for the last 6 months. So it is one of the best community outreach project where the school can able to get, and it's a replicative model, can be adopted across the world.
Okay, thank you very much. Wonderful. We have about 2 or 3 minutes before we need to wrap up. So anybody with a quick equation or quick sentence, and we'll go through the last few quickly.
Hi, I'm Sagar Daya, and I'm the co-founder of FEED. I think we really don't know what the next generation needs, the skills and other things, what will the jobs be. But the thing that we can teach them is being constant learners, being lifelong learners. Now, how do we teach them what is the kind of action that we need to take for them to be lifelong learners is, first, we as educators, we need to listen to them, and by listening to them, not just about just listening to them about how they are doing well or not, we need to listen to them in whatever way they are doing in the classrooms, at school or at home, and then we need to listen to them about ourselves also. As educators, we also are lifelong learners. We need to learn ourselves, and in this case, what we can do is, like, by listening to them, we can also improve ourselves. By showing the children that yes, we are also lifelong learners, we have skills like growth mindset, we have skills like resilience, we can then teach the students what we need to be teaching them, that is constantly learning. So we need to listen to everyone who is at the stake in education, and then teach them that this is what we are doing, and this is what, if we can at 50, if we can change, then you can also develop this habit of changing and like learning new things even at 70.
Wonderful, thank you. And there was someone down here with a hand up for the last 10 minutes, I'm going to go there. What that actually comes back to as well is there will be a panel tomorrow about teachers as learners, and it's about demonstrating lifelong learning, and that students are always learning, and we as adults are always learning as well. And we are not only creating that environment in our schools, we're also hopefully modelling it as well.
Thank you very much. I've been waiting for since so long to speak and share in a very beautiful thought process. I'm Sonia Varma from Khaitan Public School. Seeing this, I would have a vision from back to the first, how we are creating, and I'll share one beautiful example that led to this creation. So the greater good was building a community of our alumni society, where we can bring the goodness of the society and the alumni of the school, connect them to the school. So with this greater good, we wanted the alumni to participate in creating a community of gainers in the school. So this was a thought process in the brain that led us to come up with an evolving body of the thinkers from the students. The students collaborated to give that point of version what they are expecting in the school to come up with. We got the seed of the thought, and the thought was to come and make that platform be available for all the students to see up to what they are learning by experiencing the learning. We made a creative body which innovated with the idea of walk the talk. Walk the talk is an event that happens very regularly in the school, once in fortnight for a class, a group of 200 plus children, where the speaker is the personality, not from the cream where everybody wants to look up to. The person who is being into either an entrepreneur, a starter, a designer, a storyteller, orator, scientist, researchers, and the unique was alumni. The last, which I would rightly remember to tell you, and that was an exciting event for my all children of 11th and 12th. That was the alumni of the first batch and the last year topper, both being very successful in their life, standing there in front of 400 children and talking and sharing their experiences in education. One, the first pass out, and one who's just passed out 2019 March examination. So what the idea is, when we get the children, when we get the personalities through an approach which is created again in a school action, where this process is happening to blend creativity, connection and collaboration, makes children be the achievers in life. That's what I have to say.
All right, we are out of time. Please, a round of applause for all of the people who have volunteered their thoughts and the wonderful things they are doing to wrap up, in summary, I just want to say this is where the organisation I work for is moving towards from this year onwards. That we believe that the purpose of education is to develop the whole child holistically. So it's not just academically or cognitively, but socially, emotionally, mentally, physically. Prepare them for society. But the difference that we are focusing on now in this next decade is we want them to start to understand that they are part of the world they live in. They are part of the world in terms of making sure that world is sustainable, that the world itself is healthier, but also that they have empowerment as controllers or people who interact with that world. So our next decade of work is based around whole child for the whole world, and you'll be seeing that coming out from ASCD and possibly also from ScooNews moving forward. So with that, I thank you very much for your attention, and I thank the people that volunteered their thoughts, and I thank you for your passion as well.
Thank you for a wonderful session, Mr. Slade. Could I please request Ms. Vanya Bhandari, Vice President